Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Mixhax. If you don't know what we do here is we try and save you money from making shitty mistakes, So, of course, we have wasted a lot of money, trying out a lot of stuff, and we've come to, some solutions through our quests, and we just want to share that with you, so that if you are starting out your DIY journey now, look at these shows specifically because it will save you a lot of money. Specifically, what we want to talk about is storage for your concentrates. And it's a huge topic. I don't even think we'll cover all of it tonight. We'll try and just see if we can do some of it, just our strategies, what we're using. You'll find that everybody's got a different strategy. That's what makes this topic so damn interesting. Mine is easy, so I organize everything. I have all my 50 ml bottles together. I know what 50 mls I have. It's not a lot. I have all my 30 ml bottles together. I don't have a lot of 30 mls, but then everything else is organized by category, right? So on my side, I've got, for instance, all my ice creams together, all my apples together, all my caramels together, all my vanillas together, all my mangoes together. And then when I'm looking at a recipe and it has a strawberry in it, I just go to the row in my cupboard that has all the strawberries and I just look for the right one. You see, but you start running into, and that might be simple, right? Thinking, this is logical, just do that, and then it works out. But as soon as your flavor stash starts growing, you start running into like other problems. Other problems start emerging, right? And that's kind of where I am now. I'm running out of cupboard space. The aisles are sort of clashing with each other where I've just got strawberries and just got all my melons, for instance, and blah, blah. I've run out of space for aisles, and, it's difficult to see exactly what concentrate is, so it takes me a little bit longer to mix. So I'm thinking I need to look at a more sustainable kind of long-term solution. I'm ready for a new strategy. Richard has a strategy, and I've sort of half-ear listened to his strategy before, but maybe let's listen to what Dietz does first before we go on to Richard.
So I'm in pretty much a similar boat as you. Initially, what I did was I had two separate stashes. One was fruits and one was additives. That was that. Obviously, that grew and it became fruits, additives, and creams. And it actually stayed that way for the most part. And then as it grew some more and I ran out of containers and stuff, I started changing it up a bit. And from the fruits, creams, and additives, I still have additives separate. Then creams, I've got creams with what type of cream? Is it like a Bavarian cream? So I kind of work it from additives into creams and then into my fruits. But where it used to be just creams and fruits, it's now creams separated with, is it more additive as a cream or do I use it as a profile? Then you go into the bakeries, custards, kind of a thing, which is still kind of in the same, but it's more creams, sugars, bakeries, cookies, and that one. Then with the fruits, I've now got my fruits under strawberries with strawberries, lychees with lychees, citrus with citrus. But I'm definitely in the same spot as you. I don't have space anymore, and my current organizing system sucks so bad that I've got to call my wife and say, all right, this is what I'm looking for. And then 3 minutes later, I get my concentrate. So I've got a semi-automated system going at the moment, but I don't know how long that's going to work. So I think let's see what Richard has to say. So maybe I can have something new to implement on my organizing system.
Next level automation there from the wife.
I'm telling you.
This is the solution. Screw what Richard has to say. The episode is done now.
I'm going to figure it out, but I don't know how long it's going
to. Yeah, Richard, you were saying?
No, for me, the reason people waste so much time and so much money in DIY and in getting themselves set up is that they wing it as they're going. They make impulse decisions, knee-jerk decisions, and then they buy what seems like a good idea at the time, but then, 6 weeks later, it's not working anymore. They need to look at something else and so on. And this was my problem right from the start in DIY was concentrate storage. That was a big problem for me. So I did what every other DIY does. I winged it, and I went to the plastic shop, and I thought I was very clever, and bought myself a big plastic trunk with a removable lid. And then I bought myself separately some concentrate trays. So I popped my 10ml bottles in the tray. I popped the second tray on top of the first. And then I popped them both in the big plastic tray, and that was my concentrate storage. The problem was I wasn't working to a principle. When we discussed containers for nicotine PGVG, the principle we outlined was you must have a container that allows you to dispense 1 drop. If you can't dispense 1 drop of nicotine PG or VG, your mixing is going to be a mess. You can't get as accurate as you need to be. Now, my principle in concentrate storage is I must be able to find a flavor in 5 seconds. That is the principle I work towards. Your criterion may be different, your standard may be different, but what you need to do is find yourself a principle and then work towards that as an end game so that you have an idea of what you're aiming towards rather than making knee-jerk impulse purchases along the way and ending up with a bunch of containers that you outgrow and which no longer work properly, and which you then need to replace and spend more money on. Now, that was the problem with this. I had baskets inside, but you can see from these baskets there's no single there's no single compartment for a concentrate bottle. So I would be taking my bottles and putting them in here. The bottles all get mixed up. So I'm looking for FA caramel for a mix, and I now have to start going through one by one by one by one by one, lifting up every frigging bottle in every basket until I find FA caramel. If I'm lucky, I might remember where I put it back the last time I mixed with it, but usually I'm not going to. So what was happening was it was taking me half an hour to find concentrates for mixes that I was doing in 20 minutes. Which is not what you want to do. You want to spend the minimum amount of time possible actually finding your concentrates. So then my search started for concentrate storage where each bottle has its designated place. It's like a set of spanners and sockets where you open the lid and there's a plastic rack inside where every spanner fits in, every socket fits in, and the whole thing fits together. And after much searching online and looking at all sorts of different containers, I came up with seedling trays, plant seedling trays from nurseries. Let me just zoom that out a bit. As you can see, this is I think it's a 16 by 8 seedling tray. So we're storing... we're storing 8 times 16, which is 128 bottles in the tray. Each bottle has its own slot, which slots into the tray there, as you can see. They slot in, they fit snugly. And then what you can do as well is you buy a second tray, and that just pops on as a lid. You invert it and you put it on as a lid. So you're preventing, or not preventing, but you're reducing the amount of light that comes, that hits your concentrates. And then these are stackable. You just stack the next one on top of this, and you can...
modular, Yeah,
it's modular. You can go up as high as you like. Now, each of these trays cost me just under 20 Rand, maybe $1 per tray.
I'm digging that because, I'm thinking about my own method here, Richard. So you've got you know, I've got my little aisles with things in them, you know, and how many rows do you have there?
Well, what I do with mine, I started off by buying 6, 3 bases and 3 as lids. So they stack on top of each other. I've got 16 rows, which are each 8 bottles deep.
8 bottles deep,
in
yeah.
each compartment, yeah. So it's 128 bottles storage, where each bottle has its own slot for 40 Rand, say $2, to store 128 concentrates, each in their own slot, on a stackable modular system. Now, what I did was what I do is I run a dual alphabetical system. I took all my concentrates that started with A. I then split them off into the various brands, TFA, FA, CAP, FW, Anywhere, etc., etc. What I then did is I got colored permanent markers. And particularly for this type of bottle, it's, you know, the white HDP bottle that used to be very common with as DIY bottles. What I would do is I would just put a little dot in the middle of the top, you know, the top cap there, put a little permanent marker dot. So I color coded my different concentrates. FA was red, TFA was green, CAP was blue, FW was purple, Inawera was black, etc., etc. Then what I would do is my concentrates that start with A, I would put all the FAA together alphabetically. So anise comes before apple pie. You know, so I would do them alphabetically. So when it comes time to finding FA apple pie, I go to my seedling tray. I go to the A section, which I just mark with a strip of masking tape at the start of the row, which says A. I look for the red caps. That's all my FA. So I know that FA apple pie is going to have a red dot on the cap. I've got several concentrates that have red dots on the cap in the A section. That is all the FA that are together. If I'm looking for apple pie, it's towards the end of the alphabet, so I look kind of from the middle of the FAA red caps onwards. Then after the red caps, I've got the TFA green caps. Then I've got the CAP blue caps. Then the FW purple caps and so on. So regardless of which concentrate I'm looking for, I just go straight to the alphabetical row that contains that letter. So if I'm looking for Inawera Shisha Vanilla, I go to my S row. My Inawera have got black caps, so I go to the black, you know, the cluster of concentrates in a row with black caps. Shisha Vanilla is going to be towards the
SH, front,
end.
yeah? Oh,
yeah.
End.
Well, it's going to be Shisha.
Shisha.
Yeah, so it'll be kind of in the middle because of the shisha, but it'll be towards the end of the shishas because it's vanilla, not strawberry or orange or whatever. So I can make a pretty good guesstimate of where that concentrate bottle is going to be. So what I do is I just pull one out and then I check alphabetically. If I've pulled out shisha strawberry, shisha vanilla is likely to be the next one in the row. You know, if I've gone a little bit too far, then I start working back. So it works out that, you know, my first guesstimate is quite close, and it will then be within about 2 or 3 bottles from there, the actual bottle. So it takes me probably a maximum of 5 seconds to find any of the 500 flavors in my stash. The other nice thing is because I've taken it out of a slot, when I've finished mixing, I know immediately where to replace it.
Yeah.
Because I can see the empty slot in the seedling tray, so I know, okay, if I've used FW hazelnut, I find a gap in my FWH thing. That's where the hazelnut goes back. Now, the other nice thing is that because it's modular, it grows as your stash grows. I mean, I started off with only 2 or 3 rows of A, which then, you know, grew to 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. But what happens is, let me see if you can see this here. You can see those masking tape
labels, yeah.
You know, the little masking tape labels there.
Yeah.
as you fill up, let's take a random number like P. As you fill up your P row and you don't have any more, all that I do is I shift Q and Q onwards further down. So I create more rows for P. That gives me space to expand, and I just shift the masking tape label or write a new masking tape label, to now delineate where the different letters start and end.
Give them a whole new row. Yeah.
Yeah. If you run out of space entirely, you just buy more seating trays of the same type. And then you spill over from your 3 full seating trays, you now spill over into your 4th, you shift everything down, and then into your 5th and shift everything down. So it's a modular system that grows with you. It's $40, $2 to store 128 10ml concentrate bottles, which is dirt cheap. Each bottle has its space. You're working on an alphabetical color-coded system. So no matter what flavor brand you're looking for, you know straight away, because when I look down on the tray, I can see straight away if I'm looking for a cap flavor, there are the blue dots on the cap. Those are my cap flavors in that letter of the alphabet. So I know straight away where to start.
It's like between these 5, yeah.
Yeah. If I've got, say, 6 cat flavors that start with the letter T, I'll have all 6 in a row, alphabetically, with the blue dot on the label to denote that it's cat in the letter T. So if I'm looking for a cat flavor that starts with T, I've straight away narrowed it down to 6. My guesstimate on the alphabet is going to narrow it down to 2 or 3. So I'm finding the bottles very, very quickly. And that's a great thing, because regardless of how many flavors I'm using, we're mixing. It's just a case of going through, maybe lifting up, 2, maybe tops 3 bottles to find the one that I like. And I'm collecting and collating my flavors very quickly, which makes mixing just an absolute breeze. And after I've mixed, when it comes time to putting them back in the seating trays, I just look for the empty slots and pop them back in alphabetically. And then they're all there, neatly organized for the next time I mix again. Now, this system obviously isn't going to work for everybody, but for me, it's meeting my principle. It's meeting my end goal, that regardless of what flavor I'm looking for, I must be able to find it in 5 seconds. Yeah. And even as my stash grows, I'm still sticking to that, to that goal of being able to find flavors very quickly.
Yeah, I'm thinking of taking, like hybriding, like a hybrid idea of what you're doing, because at the moment, what annoys me is how, a neatly stacked row after mixing might have 2 or 3 flavors, sort of like, and then my OCD kicks in, and I have to kind of like move everything neatly again, and that takes time. And I like the way that you have one little compartment where a 10ml fits in perfectly. So but I also like my idea of using categories. So I think a hybrid system of between you and me would also work well if you use the seating trays and you use a label, for instance, and just say there, hey, this is my mangoes, and you've got 2 aisles for your mangoes, right? And then you say, okay, hey, this is, and then you just alphabetically organize your mangoes. So okay, cool, your FA or your cap is going to be sort of in front, and your Wonder Flavors is kind of going to be at the back, kind of thing, and that will really, really help. I think that will work. Yeah, thanks, Richard.
And what you can do as well is with your seating tray, you can have a whole seating tray for creams, another whole seating tray for bakeries, another 3rd seating tray for tobaccos, 4th one for citrus and berries, 5th one for tropical fruit. So
there's ways, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say I'm going to do a hybrid between both of you plus what I'm currently doing. So I'm going to use the trays. I'm going to still split my additives to one, and as I was, but similar to what you're doing, but I'm also keeping my automated system going, my semi-automated system going. So
yeah, you don't want to
doing like a hybrid of everything going on. No,
you've
that
got some
automation
built into your system already Don't get rid of it.
I'm telling you. Even my OCD is sorted because, I mean, that the same automated system packs everything back to where it was. So it works for me. I just have a question for both of you.
Yeah.
Richard, I mustn't talk too loud. My wife might hear me talking about my automated system. Richard, how long would it take you to pick a 12-ingredient recipe? Just hypothetically speaking, no specific recipe, just that it's maybe 12 concentrates. How long would that take you? 60 seconds? Just to pick everything?
No, mix it up. Mix it. Yeah, pick everything. Yeah,
wait. I'm going to ask you now. Let's ask
look
Richard.
at end-to-end process here.
No. Wait. Let's hear. What do you say?
Look, there's obviously a little bit of extra time because, I have to, because the trays are stacked. If I'm looking for a flavor at the bottom, I have to lift the stack on top of it off and so on. But I would say working on my 5 seconds per flavor thing with another minute just for lifting stacks and stuff like that. I'd say 2 minutes to find the flavors.
Okay. See, how long would that take you? No,
I know.
Don't lie, because
for
know.
people that don't know what's going down here, people check out Dietz's Jelly Bomb, Jelly Bomb B or something like that, right? Recipe.
Jelly Bomb.
He literally took 12 ingredients, put them together, and it's pretty amazing, actually. But they're all just this random stuff that he has in there, and it took me an hour to mix up this one recipe. But okay, yeah, I was drawing it out, but this is the most time-consuming recipe I've ever mixed up.
No, I'm kidding. I just wanted to throw a little shade there with your hour to 2 hour mixing one recipe.
Guys,
it is effective though. The longer you take finding your flavors, the less inclined you are to mix, and the more a drag it becomes. Whatever you do,
definitely.
Get yourself a system and work towards an end goal where you can find a flavor in 5 seconds. If you do that, that will guide your purchasing decisions and your system decisions, how you set up your storage system to best suit your mixing.
Yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps up the show. I think what I want out of this show is to literally hear what everybody is doing. So, I mean, I know it's difficult to narrate your system, but try and put it down in words and leave it in the comments below so that we can just understand what kind of system you guys are using. And because, the YouTuber thing of putting everything against your wall over here, it looks nice, but it also has its cons, right? Because you have to walk from left to right to try and find what you mixed up, and you actually you have you're not putting it vertically, so you're using a lot of space, because you're putting it almost horizontally against the wall. If that makes any sense to you, but I just want to hear what other systems there are out there. I'm down for a new system. So yeah, please leave it in the comments below. All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.